What's going on, everyone? This is Jeranism, and I am here with the Southern Israelite. We were on Facebook this morning, and he had asked me if I'd seen the video he had done yet on Jeranism, Deism Refuted, and I told him that I wasn't a deist, and he kind of asked what I was, and so I kind of gave him an explanation.
Type 2 diabetes.
Okay, let me get that off real quick.
Man,
Woman,
or where you
That's better. And so then he had asked if I had seen his video, and I hadn't seen it. So I started watching it, and then we started to have a conversation, and I said, do you want to do this live? And he said yes. So Southern Israelite, just tell everybody, I guess, who you are and if they can find your YouTube channel somewhere, and then what we're going to talk about.
I'm Southern Israelite. I have a website, Southern Israelite at WordPress.com. I have a YouTube page. It's just called the Southern Israelite.
And you
just
live
been
on
a student. I was a Christian for about. What's up?
So do you live on an airport? Oh, that was loud. Did you?
I live in the damage trail of an airport. But I've been I was a Christian for about 13 years, and I was a seminary student. I went to grad school to be a Presbyterian minister, and I found some things in traditional Catholic theology, which a lot of Protestants still inherited after the Protestant Reformation, about the Trinity doctrine, the doctrine of the immortal soul, and how it connected to eternal hell, and the Sabbath doctrine, and all the controversies that concern the Christians and the Jews and the law of Moses. It just the traditional Christian theology just didn't wash for me, and I left a church that I loved very much. It was a Scottish Presbyterian church, but I've spent the last 8 or 9 years or so just writing books and searching for the truth, and I learned about your work through flat Earth conspiracy debate stuff, and I was a geocentrist for a couple of years, a globe geocentrist, but it was really mind-blowing just the last 6 months coming to flat Earth, and I was able to learn a lot from your videos on the flat Earth and things that you've done, debates you had with Robertson Genis, and then the video you did somewhat recently, I think, about boats and mirages, which I thought was really good video. I really appreciated it, and so I watched your. I was very concerned about where the religious aspect of this was going, and I saw you had done a video on religion and the Bible and atheism, and I listened to it, and I thought I'd have to try to sway you my direction.
Very cool. Yeah, and to be honest with me, as far as the religious aspect, I would say it's grown a little bit over the course of this flat Earth movement. Actually, something a lot of people probably don't know, but the Jeranism channel was actually made to be more about religion. Was actually why the channel was made, and it just so happens that right at the beginning is where I kind of came to the flat Earth and started making videos about that. So actually, I don't even remember. I'd have to look back, but I think my first 1 or 2 videos might have been more religious based. But it all ties together perfectly. So, and for me, grew up completely Catholic, so that was my upbringing, and also went through a little spell with my wife as far as her being a Bible believing Christian, and then we both kind of got out of that and became atheists, if you will. I mean, I guess you could even say I sampled it and saw that it was just a religion, and then realized kind of at the core of scientism is a deep-held hatred, in my opinion, of God and of the Creator, and everything that they do is an attempt to block people from seeing that, which kind of leads you to then realize that we have a lot more power than I think they'll give us credit for, and human beings are capable of so much more, and only by separating us and keeping us at each other's throats, racism, sexism, um, gay versus straight, black versus white, Hebrew versus, you know, Jew, you name it, Christian versus Islam. It's all meant to make sure we're at odds with each other. By doing that, we never come to any kind of a human collective conscience, and they can get away with their little moves to run the world from the back end. So, just trying to kind of expose that.
I think you're giving them too much credit at that point.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that they really have a. I think they mess everything up that they do. I mean, you know, you could look at everything. I mean, I think that they had a lot to do with 9/11, obviously, and I think they had a lot to do with Kennedy, and I think they messed a lot of stuff up. And I know that the Catholics are right there in it, if not at the top.
I'm just saying that the divisions, the divisions with regard to religion and race and sex and whatnot. I don't think that's a product of a government conspiracy. That's just the controversies that have arisen in the history of the world between people. I think you're giving them too much credit at that point. There's just
so. Do you think
some issues that regard the New Testament and?
Yeah, I just think like ISIS is funded.
Go ahead.
ISIS is funded by the United States. So what that is it's meant to keep.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm saying is when you have those battles, for instance, there is nobody really that's out to kill Christians. I mean, of course, I'm not giving this on a small level scale. I'm saying that there's no major group out there trying to kill Christians, and Christians aren't out trying to kill another religion, and blacks aren't going out in full force trying to kill whites, and whites aren't going out trying to kill blacks. It's just not. Humans are evolving to the point where we are fine. We don't need even to have wars. Wars are all made up. Nobody in Israel wants to kill me. Nobody in Afghanistan is thinking, I hate those stupid Americans, I want to kill them. What happens is it's set up. It's somebody playing both ends of the war, somebody who's in one ear and in the other. And what it does is it creates conflict. And with conflict comes war. And with war comes money. And with money comes power. And that's all it is. I don't think that we need to have wars anymore. Go ahead.
Look, I hear you. I hear you to a degree. It's just that there's the reason why they're able to control and use people like ISIS against other people is because there are legitimate issues. They take an advantage of legitimate issues between people, and that's how they control. They don't just. It's not just some puppet on a string. They're seeing legitimate and real conflicts between people, and they're taking a certain side and angling the narrative so that they can get something out of it, some kind of benefit out of it. It's not just They're not just making this stuff up and
no, they're not making
controlling everything like puppets on a string.
No, certainly not. And I don't mean to say that. What I'm saying is they get like money makes the world go round. I mean, basically the entire Holocaust is a product of giving Hitler money. All that couldn't have happened without boosting the German economy on purpose. And by giving them debt-free money, only the banks can do that. And he made it look like Germany was flourishing, and people got behind him. And after the Treaty of Versailles, people were, they were embarrassed, and they got to get their mojo back, and they were coming back strong. And so if it wasn't for the money that we put behind that, and, Ford gave them all their tanks, all the trucks and everything that they did in Germany was done through American products. American railroads built every railroad to every camp. Right. So I'm just saying, like, they are creating the conflicts. Yes, I know what you're saying. There is conflict there, but it would have never gone as far as it is. Just like, yes, there is people there is Muslims that want to kill Christians, but you need a lot of money to do that on a mass scale. And that's what they're getting. They're getting funded to get AK-47s and, to move in these big groups and to be able to mobilize and to be able to chase refugees out of cities. I mean, they wouldn't have, without the money, they can't do that. That's what I'm just basically trying to say. But let's get to your video here. So basically, he made this video, Jeranism, Deism Refuted. And what kind of led me to my issue with it, at about 13 minutes, I actually didn't have a whole problem with the beginning. He was kind of explaining some books that I should read about deism. And my vision of deism isn't the same as most people's, I guess, because I thought of deism as a God who created the world and then disappeared. That's kind of how I picture it. But I guess it just says deism is the belief that observation alone can prove a deity, which I do believe in that. So if that's all deism is, then I guess I am a deist. Would go ahead and explain, Southern Israel, what you would consider your religion or your beliefs after we get bombed?
You're my religion to be?
Yeah, just what would you consider your religion, or what would you consider your belief? What would you call it?
Yeah, well, it's a sect that was it's documented fact from Epiphanius and his Panarian that they were the original followers of Jesus, Yeshua, and his apostles were a group called the Nazarenes. They were a Torah observant people who understood that something had changed about the New Testament, but they didn't see their religion as something completely radically different from the one that's in the Old Testament. They still circumcised their children. They still kept the Sabbath. They still kept cleanliness laws, but they believed that understood that there was a new covenant that had been made with Jesus, Yeshua, and that they weren't going to live a lifestyle radically different than their ancestors had lived, and they were the original group called the Nazarenes, and that's what I see myself as. I do not believe in the Trinity. I believe in keeping the Sabbath day and eating clean according to the Torah, and keeping the feast days in Torah, and
okay. So what is that?
It's like a messianic Jewish.
So I'm going to play the tape. I forgot where we were at 13 something. I remember exactly 13:28. I think I'm just going to try and get about there. So I'm going to play a little bit of this, and we can listen. There was a line that is what caused me to kind of lose my mind. So we'll see if we get there. Okay, so that was the line that I had a problem with, and what I came back to him and said was that I feel that is completely turning people against the Creator, because I don't think people want to hear that. And what was the exact quote? Do you remember what you said there?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, kind of. I lost you for a second there.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
You can hear me okay now?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it is the God that has allowed evil for the glorification of his justice and the destruction of the wicked. And that's exactly Paul's argument in Romans chapter 9. And he even predicts that an objection will come up, and he says, who are you to reply against God? And I am a Calvinist in substance. I agree with the Calvinists on their understanding of predestination, and that God has determined all the things, and he's planned and foreknew all the things that would happen in the world, and that it involves the evil and violence that is done in the world.
So you wouldn't agree that if God created people and gave them free will, that it is not okay for you to question whether or not you worship that God? How can I be given? I look at God as having, he must have, and I say he, I don't even really think of it as a he, but I believe God must have more morality than me, more beauty than me, more humor than me, more humility than me. Everything that there is possible, God is the the ultimate of that. So when I look at being moral, I could never say something like God allows evil. Say your line again. I should have wrote it down. So God allows evil what?
It's okay to punish evil and the glorification of his justice and the destruction of the wicked.
Okay, so
And that's exactly Paul's argument in Romans chapter 9.
Okay, so what I was asking is, like, let's say ISIS, let's say they're wicked, and so God allows evil for the glorification of his name and the destruction of evil. So if we go over to bomb ISIS and we take out, huh? And we take out some innocent people.
I just said that's right.
Right. So if we go over and drop bombs and we kill some innocent kids in the process, is that part of God being justified in the destruction of the wicked?
Well, I wouldn't see ISIS as evil as you think they are. I think Muslims
let's say for an example,
are more. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was using that as a completely. I don't see them either. Let's say there's some group that pops up out of France and is just killing people left and right. Let's call them X. Group X is just killing people left and right, and we have to go in, and I say we meaning whatever United Nations army is going to go in and take him out. And in the process, we kill some innocent bystanders. You're saying that has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
God allows that evil for the glorification of his name and the destruction of the evil and the wicked. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, one of the naivetés, I think, which is a part of the Western mindset, is this idea that we're all individual sovereigns and we have a distinct identity from the nation and group collective that we are a product of. And all over the Bible, we see this concept, and every group of people I know understands this and accepts it, of a collective identity. And that when your collective identity, your group, your nation has committed a certain sin or crime, it's imputed to the whole collective group. And Ezekiel was taken into captivity with his people in the Bible. If you look at the rebellion of Achan in the Torah, his whole family was destroyed because of his sin. The concept of in Exodus chapter 20, the sins of the fathers are visited upon the children. This idea is even universally acknowledged among liberals that I know. They say that the white people in the South should be displaced and ethnically cleansed because of the legacy of white supremacy and slavery and racism in the South. All the people of the world understand this, that there's collective identities, and the Bible is very clear in denoting the same. It's emotionally disturbing that children are innocent bystanders, are victims of the sins of their collective identity. But
yeah, I have a total.
I don't see any way around it. I don't see any way around identifying groups of people.
Well, because each individual person is responsible for their own actions, and I understand accidents happen. There's mistakes. There might be a 4-year-old little girl, 8-year-old little boy who wanders out in the street and gets hit by a car. So I'm not saying that that's not an accident or a mistake. And same thing in war, if there's an errant missile or bomb that kills innocent people. But I certainly wouldn't attribute that to God glorifying himself through the destruction of the wicked. I also think it's easy. Go ahead. I just think it's easy for us to say if we're not being raped on a daily basis. I mean, if you were to say somebody in another country is getting raped by their uncle on a daily basis, and somewhere in that tribe of people, there's some evil, wicked acts going on. You want that little girl to believe that the reason she's being raped is because of the sins of that group. I think that's a completely wrong.
I mean, ultimately there is no. We are not all innocent. We have we are the children of Adam. We are a fallen race, and the reason why violence and terrible things happen in the world is because of the sin of our father Adam. And we are that sin is imputed to us, and we are we bear the legacy of it. And God did not create Adam wicked; He created him righteous and upright, morally
Okay,
upright.
so let
And
me.
he, of his own free will, or better said, free agency, plunged our race into this dark world that we live in now. And the assumption that they're innocent people is, in some part incorrect. I understand in some part it is true. They are innocent in a certain sense, but in a larger, ultimate sense, we are a part of a fallen race that is subject to these horrible things.
Yeah, I just, and that's why, I mean, I understand what you say when you said in your video that it's not okay for me to say to look inside yourself for the truth, that you have to look in the Bible. But to me, that just is not compatible with my view of morality. I do not think that God created two human beings, had an opportunity to just wipe those two human beings clear and start over again. Instead, God decided to let 100 billion people be born and live in sin because of the sins of the first two. To me, it's a clear story. I don't even think the people who wrote the Bible would have ever dreamed. I was just
So
gonna say,
you do not believe that the United States government has a right to force racial integration and the religious and ethnic displacement of the Southern people. You think that's wrong then? Because those policies are exactly working off the exact same principle that I'm talking about. We should be ethnically displaced, and the Bible and the Protestant Reformation completely destroyed down here because of our legacy of slavery and white supremacy. Are you against racial integration then?
Absolutely not. No, I believe that the way we have it set up as far as being born in a country and being naturalized in that country is probably correct. And you should take the steps that are required for you to change your citizenship or change the country you live in. If I'm an American because I'm born in America, I should have American citizenship. Should be able to come and go as I want in this country. And if I want to go somewhere else, then I've got to deal with their country's rules. But I certainly would not say I'm against that. What I'm saying is that Adam and Eve is a story about what we all go through, what we all have to deal with as far as being tempted by sin. It's what you go through every single day. You have the good and you have the bad. You have what you know is good. You have what God told you, and then you have the deceiver, the serpent, the guile one, the devil, who's going to come and he's going to tempt you with everything that, and they're going to even try and trick you. See, it's not a matter of the devil coming and telling Eve, "Come here, you can kick this, kick this animal in the real hard if you want." He tempted her with something that she didn't even know was evil. She didn't know that by eating the apple, because he told her, "No, you won't die. You'll learn the knowledge of good and evil." So she was tricked. But that's what the whole thing is.
She knew it. No, that's not true. That's not true. The Bible does not say that. It doesn't say that she didn't know. She knew very well. That's why she said to the serpent, God had said we're not supposed to eat of this tree, and if we eat of it, we're going to die. And then he he deceived her, which Paul speaks to explicitly in his letters to Timothy, that the woman was deceived and fell into the transgression. And she knew that what the truth was, and she deliberately.
Well, there's a difference there. You just said deceived.
Deliberately,
you said deceived and deliberately. That's two different things. So was she deceived, or did she deliberately go against the wishes?
My point is that she knew the prohibition existed to eat of the tree. She knew it. It's very clear that she knew it. And then the serpent deceived her into rejecting that. But she knew that the prohibition was there.
I mean, if you look at the line there, what was
her name was Jawa, by the way. It was Eve.
Okay, what was happened there too is, if you look at it, is God had told them that on the day they eat that, they will surely die. Correct?
Yes.
And the devil said, "No, you won't surely die. you'll know the difference between good and evil. So who lied there and who told the truth?
What do you mean?
Well, God told them that on the day, well, he said on the day you eat that, you will surely die. They ate it and they did not die. The devil said, if you eat that, you won't die. You'll know the difference between good and evil.
Well, the separation from God was there, and mortality entered into mankind at that point. They did die in a sense that the process of mortality was introduced into the human life.
See, I can't see how anybody, I don't understand how you can believe that. Okay, so what you're saying is when the original two people were put on the earth, that they were put here perfect. They were not supposed to die. They were supposed to live in paradise for all times.
Well, that was the design he put in there, that God put in their nature.
Okay, so then
that was the predestination in that design.
Okay, so you'd have two people.
His creed was that they would fall.
His creed, so he knew they would fall.
Of course.
So your God that you worship, that you pray to, that you bow to, put two people here, knowing that they would sin, and that the 100 million people after them would be born in sin, and you choose to worship that God.
You got something better for me?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't see anything better. There's nothing better, man. I
don't understand
the canons of human religion for like almost 20 years now, and what the Bible says lines up perfectly with my experience. My experience is not this liberal, naive view of human nature that people are good and that you just give people freedom and they'll do the right thing.
Oh, I certainly don't believe that.
You've been on the internet long enough to know
I certainly don't believe that.
They're lying, manipulative, psychological manipulators, man. That's the way people are. They want to do everything they can to avoid facing the truth. Right. You know this in your own movement. You specialize in this.
Absolutely.
It's like,
but I think here's my problem with what you're doing and what other people are doing. I feel like you are taking humans who are evil, who are bad, who are corrupt, and you're taking their writings about who they attribute God, the attributes they give to him, the ideas that they put, the actions that they say he did. They wrote it in a book, and you're taking that and saying, well, God must be this tyrant. He must be this stupid man who put these two people here and let them sin so that 100 billion people after them sinned. And I'm saying, I'm able to look at it and say, the Bible is a story of human history. And if you just look at the Bible, you can walk through it and see people attributing things to God incorrectly, people thinking he was doing things. They were probably stories. There's no way the people who wrote the Bible thought in 3,000 years that people would be taking the words that they wrote literally. If they were doing that, they would write dates. They would write, times in there. They didn't even keep track of dates. They didn't care because it was written as an overall metaphor, as a wide-ranging view. And if you watch the Bible, it gets to the New Testament, and boom, now you have Jesus. Now God's not out there killing groups of people anymore. Now Jesus is saying, love others, treat others better than you would treat yourself. So you can kind of see. Go ahead.
That's in the Torah as well, man.
Right.
First of all, the first thing you said about the God, you probably think that the Bible is this product of people just kind of splashing their opinions down on the ink on paper and trying to deceive people.
No, not trying to deceive people.
And no. The reply that I
never said that. I said it is a story of human history, meaning at a time it was needed for humans probably to have very archaic laws. And one of those might have been that if you work on the Sabbath day that you get stoned. Now, is that something that should happen today?
Hold on. See, this is an issue I love talking about, man. Because when you start bringing up so-called cruel laws in the Bible, you look at what the secular regimes have created here. I used to minister in a prison for years when I was in college. These men get trapped in these cement blocks for decades on end, where they fear every day of assault, gang rape, torture, the justice system, which most liberals say they despise in this country and in all the secular regimes in the last few hundred years, is exponentially more cruel and tyrannical than anything in the Bible. I mean, you can't seriously say that the secular regimes have created more superior justice system than the Bible. Can you seriously believe that?
No, I mean,
Okay.
I would say if you ask somebody who's in jail for 4 years for possession of marijuana, whether they would have rather
ridiculous.
been stoned.
Ridiculous.
Well, but I'm still saying, if you ask them, would you rather be stoned for doing that, or would you rather spend 4 years in jail? They're going to pick 4 years in jail. So as bad as it might be in jail,
the Bible doesn't say you get. Hold on. The Bible does not say you get stoned for owning marijuana or smoking it. Okay?
They said you get stoned for working on a Sabbath day.
Bible,
it's worse. What do you mean?
That's right. Like, you have to have a structure. The entire human structure operates on this time scale. Dude, during the French Revolution, they tried to create a 10-day work week during the French Revolution. The people were revolted against it. You have to have a weekly calendar that human beings can live by. I mean, when you start going against the Sabbath, you're attacking like an essential part of a human civilization. God put this in our biology and in the physical world that you work 6 days and rest on the seventh. That is fixed in human biology, and we've seen when people try to change it that it doesn't work.
No,
you have to have a day of rest and a day where people get together.
Okay, so what I said that in the old days we had to have structure. I'm not saying those laws weren't needed back then. You missed my point. I said I can see it for what they are and see that we've come out of that. See that
It's not back then. It's now. It's now. We still need this today. This is exactly during the French Revolution. French Revolution only happened like 200 years ago, man. A little over 200 years ago. This was they tried to change this. The people taking your mindset that the Bible is this archaic book that represents the lifestyles of these Bronze Age shepherds. This is the mentality that they took, and they tried to change the calendar that God set up, and it didn't work, and the people revolted against it. It's not some archaic thing that happened in the ancient world. It's happened in the French Revolution. We see during the French Revolution the seven day calendar that God created is exactly what people need. And when this, I think it's perfectly rational for there to be penalties that people fear for attacking essential parts of human civilization. Absolutely.
Wearing mixed clothing?
No. Okay. See,
I'm asking you because you're saying that now you're going to pick and choose which ones work.
What you're talking about, Jaron.
I do know what I'm talking about. I've read.
No, I keep that law.
You don't mix polyester and cotton
against mixed fabrics. Hold on, let me
tell me it.
I know this issue very well. I studied it for many years.
Okay.
All right. The shotnees is a mix of wool and linen. It is not a mix of all fabrics. It is a specific prohibition to mix wool and linen. Why? Because those were the garments of the Levite priests, and the Levite priests had a specific function in their hierarchical theocracy, and there was to be distinctions between people. There was to be a certain caste among people, and that's why that law was given. You guys think that the Torah is this Bronze Age shepherd religion. It's not, dude. I'm sorry. King Solomon, one of the at his time most powerful, wisest man on the world. This was his religion. Mm-hmm. You guys are duped into thinking this is just some shepherd religion of the Bronze Age. The laws in the Bible they're very wise, and they're very real to the way human beings really are. People are not good, and most of them need to be influenced by fear and violence. Most people do not care what the truth is. They don't care what the right thing to do is. Most people just want to do what they want to do.
I would agree with that, but I would say
I'm completely.
So what about? I mean, you're saying I shouldn't be able to touch my wife for the 7 days after her menstrual period.
That's right. That's right.
That's a good law.
And you should wash. And I just
go ahead.
Dude, I mean, the commandments also I just made a video about this, about pornography and masturbation on my YouTube channel, and yes, there's a specific section in Leviticus 15 about washing after sex, mm-hmm. And I mean, there's good reasons to do that. Yeah,
I didn't say that. That's a good.
If I masturbate, I wash myself.
That's good for everyone, but
yeah.
There's so many of those
Well,
laws
I mean,
that are in my mind archaic, and they are. And I think that.
you can't seriously
Go ahead.
believe that. I mean, dude, when I've been single for a while, but when I was like 19 years old, I had a very serious relationship with a girl, and every time we'd have sex, there's this huge spot of ass sweat and sperm on my bed. That's disgusting. People that live like that, it's disgusting. And I didn't, the law about washing and keeping yourself clean after sex, that is not archaic. That's a pretty rational law.
So I mean,
making sure that a bunch of. Go ahead.
Okay, I just have more questions, because to me, I think that this is an ancient belief system. I think that you think men are above women.
I know you do.
I asked you.
Dude, that is a biological fact. I understand. Yeah, yes, absolutely. That is a biological fact of human civilization. You look at the labor statistics report. The last one I looked at, it was like 93% of all the people who died on the job, it was men. 93% men. Men build the roads. Men build the houses. Men's bodies are broken and their blood is shed for the maintaining of civilization, not women. Women get to enjoy their air-conditioned, comfortable lives, while men have their lives destroyed to give them that privilege. You can't seriously believe that men and women are equal. You can't. Have you studied anything about human civilization that gives you the impression that men and women are equal?
I believe that they are equal.
What evidence have you read?
Nothing, because we're a product of.
No,
you're acting as if I read the past, that would tell me that, of course, the past is a product. It's what created today. So when you say men's bodies are more fit for hard work, it's because men wanted their women in the house and rearing the children and doing the dishes and those kind of things. So women didn't grow strong, and that's a product of. And their children aren't going to be as strong. It goes throughout the whole thing. The whole history of humankind. I'm saying. Go ahead. I'm saying in the Bible it says basically.
If women are forced. If women are forced to start do the same kind of jobs men do, you're saying that in a few hundred or thousand years, their biology will be equally physically fit as a man.
Sure. In 3,000 years, if you had men start working in the house, doing laundry, washing dishes, raising kids, and the women went out and worked as the log cutters, and in 3,000 years they would be equal their body statures. Sure.
There's no way.
Okay, well,
there's no way that's ever.
That's fine. Yeah, and you know what? You're right. I never said it was going to happen, so I don't understand what you're saying there. What I'm trying to say is now look at. So you think that as far as females, they should be okay to be slaves? They should be okay to be sex slaves? I'm bringing up things.
I don't know about sex slave,
but that's in the Bible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, I'm sorry. If you look, absolutely, man. If you look at the sexual revolution that's taken place here in the last 60 years, it's very clear these young girls can't make decisions for themselves very well. You look at the single motherhood statistics. You look at the infanticide statistics. We've killed over 55 million children in abortion clinics in this country. The family is destroyed. The last statistic I saw.
But here's the thing. This is where I think there's a disconnect.
34 primates for marriage are unmarried.
The disconnect is that you have a lot of the same ideas as me about where we should go or the problems with society today. I'm trying to ask you. I think a lot of those have to do with being a product of the Bible itself. And like men and women.
Whoa.
Men and women work best together. My wife and I work best together. It's a complementary thing. It's just like the Bible says that. I believe a lot of things in the Bible are true. When it says that the two become one, I believe that if you're going to have the best possible duo, they're going to complement each other. Where I lack, she picks up. Where she lacks, I pick up. So to then have a layout. The Bible says that women should keep their mouth shut in church. They should not speak out in church. Yep. So you're saying that is a correct belief in today's world. Not that it happens. Absolutely. Okay. That's, to me, that is the problem.
You look at, I'm sorry, man, you're just talking from your liberal emotions that you've been, these ideas have just been kind of browbeaten on you, and you're not actually looking at the evidence. You look at,
I don't know how he can say that. What do you, who's had something browbeaten on them? Who's had something that it's like your dogma. Your dogma is that men always will be above women. Women always have to shut up in church. Women always have to be clean for 7 days before you can touch them. Women are allowed to be used as sex slaves. And that's not my dogma. My dogma is we're human beings. We were given a brain. We were given the ability to choose. And our goal in life is to choose the correct path for everyone. And eventually it gets to the point where you realize women are not any worse than men. They should be allowed to speak in church as much as me. Why would they not be able to speak?
No, because their emotions, women are too mentally and emotionally unstable to deal with most issues that regard higher education and deal with civilization. You look at
that's what you've been taught from history. That's not. You can't say that because we've never given them an equal chance. They are facts because we've never given them an equal chance. How could you say that?
We have.
When?
The last 60 years, we've given them a chance. And you look, the last book that I read on the history of technology, published by Oxford University Press, it details all the most influential inventions in the history of mankind. And if you look at the list that they give from the time of women's suffrage and the women's liberation movement up until today, forget the ancient world, because I know they're going to discount that because they'll say they were under male supremacy. If you look at the time period from women's liberation until today, every single invention they mention in that book is by a man. Every single one. There's not a single woman mentioned in that list. All the big accomplishments in the last 150 years were by men. And if you look at what women have done since their liberation, they haven't really done much of anything of note except destroy the family, murder tens of millions of children, completely push this sexual revolution thing here, which created the pornography industry and the human trafficking industry, which now has like hundreds of thousands of people are sex slaves, which is really interesting because your view says that I have this cruel sex slave institution, whereas your liberal sexual revolution actually created the most cruel form of sex slavery in the history of mankind.
Which is what?
You look at what the human trafficking industry. Do you know nothing about this?
I do, but what I'm saying is that is a product of the exact system that you say should be allowed. It is the exact
You can't
system.
seriously believe that, man. The sexual revolution was a total
they're having to do it behind
the Bible's views of
I guess we're talking about the different things.
They have at all with the work of Alfred.
They have to do underground sex trading because it's not legal anymore, where you want it to be legal. I don't understand what you mean.
What are you talking about, dude? In the Christian patriarchal societies and what you have written in the Bible, a man is to raise his daughter and arrange a marriage for her with a decent man, and yeah, she has no say in it, and that's great because women clearly can't make decisions for themselves. We've seen that.
Wow.
She wants the bad boy. She wants the dude that raises her fancy for a few months, and he just uses her, leaves her pregnant with a child. And single motherhood is now a huge rampant problem in this country, and she clearly can't make decisions for herself. So the biblical institution of a father having control over his daughter, and arranging a marriage with a man who has a good job and he's a stable human being, that's clearly much better than what we have now. Clearly. I mean, you can't seriously believe that the sexual revolution was a product of the Bible or Christian civilization. I mean, you look at the work of Alfred Kinsey. You look at the way that it's extended in the work of Ernst and Loth. They cleared that their whole purpose of his work, Alfred Kinsey's work, was to remove the sex crime laws that were a part of American legal system that came from the Bible. I mean, on the books today, there are still laws of many states here that say that it's a crime to have premarital sex. And that came from the Bible and from the Christian civilization. And the sexual revolution rejected all of that. Right?
Okay. Because people,
I mean, you can't seriously believe the sex.
What I'm saying is, okay, so you have laws that are done back then based on the Bible, like slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear, serve them as you would serve Christ. Ephesians, right? So
yes, amen.
Okay. Okay. So if you have that throughout all of history, meaning 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, you've got women who are being subjected to being slaves, men hanging over them, telling them what to do, putting them down, and they are supposed to respond with deep respect and fear serving them as they would serve Christ. And this goes on year after year, generation after generation, generation after generation. Now we get to today when people stand up and say, you know what? This isn't right. This isn't right for us to put women through this kind of subjection when they've done nothing wrong to deserve it or nothing to deserve that. So we started trying to liberate them. Now, when we do, there's still men out there who are like, I want my damn slave. And so what do? They go buy them, and it becomes an underground sex trade. That's exactly the product of what it was originally. How do you not see that? I mean, it's like you're...
Because it was a... First of all, when we're talking about sex slave, you're meaning it in a totally different sense than... You're like imputing this definition of sex slave. Does the
Bible tell us what it means there? Could not a man say to a woman or to a young girl, the Bible says right here that you need to obey your master and you need to, with deep respect and fear, and you need to serve me like you serve Christ. Could they not say that, or you're saying they would be able to read into the Bible?
That's not a sex slave. How is that a sex slave?
Because
how is that a sex slave? I don't understand.
You're missing the point. Because how can they know it's not? How could they not use that against the women in those days? So I'm just saying that what...
How can they not use it against the women? I don't understand what point you're getting at. If you're getting at the concept that men use the Bible to justify their subjugation of the women,
yeah,
absolutely, I get that.
Okay,
but if you're saying that a person is kidnapped and forced into
didn't say that,
onto a bed and chained on a bed and it's like
I didn't say that.
You're equating very different things. Okay.
No, I'm just saying if you're a family and you or whatever and you acquire a slave and you want to slowly start to subject her to some sexual activities, you could use that verse of the Bible to make her believe that she needs to do that for you.
Come on, man.
How could you say that's not
true?
Tell
me what you're talking about. Give me a concrete example. Give me a concrete example of what you're talking
about. I have no idea.
Oh, man, I don't see that anywhere in the Bible.
You don't.
What I read in the Bible.
I just read you the lines from the Bible, from Ephesians.
Hold on.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, but it also says that we're supposed to treat our wives with kindness and to love them as Christ loves the church. And this is in the Bible. It's not the subjugation of women in the Bible is not some sadistic, like cruel relationship with a woman. It's good for her because especially young women cannot make decisions for themselves. They're too emotional and they're too mentally unstable to make these kind of decisions for themselves with their lives.
Wow.
That's clear from the statistics we've seen.
Well, you're just pulling that straight from the Bible. There's no word consent in the Bible.
Single motherhood.
There's no word consent in the Bible. Where's the word consent? Where does it say that a person has to agree to have sex with you? You don't think that's something that should be in the in the 21st century? You don't think that's something that's important? Consent?
Well,
it's not in the Bible. There's no consent.
I was under the... I was under the impression that a woman had to agree to marry a man, but I'll have to look into that.
Nowhere in the Bible does it say, do not have sex with someone who does not want to have sex with you. Nowhere. Well,
the Deuteronomy 22 is a chapter against rape. It's clearly against rape in Deuteronomy 22, but I mean, I'll have to get more specific information on the role of the woman's consent.
And then a lot of people like to say, well, Jesus came and changed things. Well, Jesus came and said, do not think I've come to abolish the law, right? So what I'm saying is these things have been carried along. So when you say, I mean, some of the things you said are crazy about women are a certain way just because they are inherently, like as if they're not a product of what they have been in the past. I mean, if women are, sure, you said because they're too emotional, they can't do a man's job. Is that what you said? I'm asking you. I don't know what that.
I said that they're too. I asked you that. I said that young girls are too emotionally and mentally unstable to make choices as far as marriage and family go. She clearly needs her father to do that for her because we've seen her track record in the last 60 years. The 55
and men don't make bad decisions.
The sexually transmitted.
I mean, it's like, are you?
Of course they do.
Well, then what are you saying? They're both
because
human
they've been
beings.
trained to be atheists. No, because the men here have been
Christian men don't make bad decisions.
Is evil.
Christian men. I'm asking. I mean, you're putting a blanket statement over a lot of people that you're making it sound like a woman can't be a CEO of a company because she has too much estrogen. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me that you would have those kind of thoughts. It seems very archaic.
Fallacy of composition.
Meaning?
You're using a fallacy of composition. Fallacy of composition. You're trying to take a part of something and making it indicative of the whole. And just because there are like a small percentage of,
That's what you
of the female gender that have high intellectual ability doesn't mean that it's indicative of the whole gender.
You're trying to do the complete opposite. You're saying because some of them may not be able to make good decisions at a young age, that they all cannot make any decisions for themselves. That's the argument you're making.
I'm saying the vast majority of young women cannot make decisions for themselves because they're too mentally and emotionally unstable.
Okay, but their father makes the best decision. I don't see how anyone
who's lived in a human civilization could deny that.
But their father makes a good decision every time. I mean, when Lot gave his 2 daughters to the village people to rape, that was him making a good decision for them.
Again, fallacy of composition, man.
No, I'm asking you about that specific. I'm asking you that specific time. No, that specific time. What I'm saying is,
of course, I admitted it, and I extended that was a fallacy of composition. I admit that was a bad decision on his part. Absolutely.
Does the Bible tell us that's a bad decision?
The structure that God has set up.
I'm just wondering because
I guess it doesn't speak on it explicitly.
Right. So that's my thing is I believe that we are at a point in our growth as human beings that we can read the Bible and take from it the good and realize what part of it is bad. We have that capability because God is put into our hearts. So we don't need a book to tell us, because a book can be taken in many different ways. It can be translated a million different ways. It can be allegory. It might be literal. You never know. I mean, I've used the line before about Jesus, right? When he says, beware in the future because many people will come in my name. By that I said, well, what if he's talking about Christians? Many people will come in my name, Christians, saying I am the Christ. So what if he was warning people, many people will come in my name, Christians, saying that I, Jesus, was the Christ. Do not be led astray. But we don't know the difference because we were taught by pastors what he meant to say there. And guess what? When the Bible was written, there was no punctuation. So we have even no way to know at all where the punctuation goes there. It's all been added. So, I mean, to me, it's easy to just read the Bible and say, okay, I want to take the good from it. Jesus says some great things. So I live my life. When somebody says, do you live your life by Jesus? Sure. I absolutely try and live by Jesus's good words. But I don't try and live by the words that he says that aren't good. He says that you...
and what is your standard of measurement? What standard of good are you operating off?
My heart, my conscience.
Hold on, let me finish. When I've talked to people who reject the Bible and are part of the Enlightenment tradition, that it just comes down to their feelings.
Yeah. I mean, I would say this. I mean, if somebody comes into my house tonight to try and attack my wife and I'm going to probably shoot them. They're probably going to die. And I do not think that I sinned, because I'm not going to have a feeling in my stomach of, man, I just murdered somebody. I'm going to have a feeling in my stomach if I just protected my family. So the Bible just gives very black and white 10 commandments, one of them being, thou shalt not kill. Well, I killed, but I don't even think I sinned. And so there's some times where things are not as black and white as they may look. And I don't think things are black and white. Rules are not black and white. I believe we're given the law of the nature of the world is put into us. Now, I agree with you about atheists. Believe me. I mean, if you just go through some of my videos and look at the comments, you either have somebody saying something kind and, hey, this really opened up my mind and thanks a lot for this and peace and love or something like that. And then the next comment will be from somebody saying, I need to effing be put into a concentration camp and gassed, and I'm the biggest moron and I need to not give birth to any, I mean, so you have, and those are the people that are atheists. I mean, they act like they're morally superior, but really they're frustrated and angry. And I can understand why, because they do not have a connection with the good in the world, with the will of God. I mean, to me, it just seems like I just refuse to believe that I still can't even get over that line that you said, that God celebrates or basks in the evil and the destruction of the wicked to show his glory.
Yes.
I can't.
I'm sorry, dude.
Well,
That's what the Bible says, and it makes sense to me. And I
it makes sense to you that
think of
God
a
is more
lot
moral
of
than
a lot
you,
of people in my life.
or less moral than you.
I would the people that came down here in the South and raped, pillaged, and murdered our families down here during the Civil War, and it's completely subjected our people to ethnic and religious cleansing. It would be a glorious day to stand on top of a pile of their dead bodies, in a defeat of them on the battlefield. I mean, you can't. I mean,
I do not feel any way like that. I mean,
then you're weak-minded, man.
maybe I feel
You've
like
got a weak-minded. Yeah,
I do not want to stand on the top of any dead bodies. I don't care who they are. It doesn't make any sense to me. There's other ways to go about handling things than to pile bodies. I mean, it just
that's a very naive attitude, man. And we've seen this complaint in the Enlightenment tradition in the last few hundred years that religion and theocracy is this violent, bloodthirsty civilization.
You just said you wanted to stand on top of dead bodies.
Hold on. And I admit it is, but if you look at the secular regimes, they have not only have they not done any better, they've shown themselves to be exponentially more violent than religious people. The Spanish, the Roman Catholic Inquisition, it took them 605 years to kill 50 million people. It took the communists less than 1 century to kill over 120 million people. You can't seriously think that your tradition has somehow superseded the morality of the Bible and religious theocracy.
So you believe in genocide then? Is an okay method?
Everyone believes in genocide.
Sorry, I don't.
You just told me a little while ago that you believe in racial integration, right?
It's not genocide.
Actually, absolutely. If you read the United Nations Declaration on Genocide, you read, I think it's Article 2. I have it documented in my book. Any government policy that is set to result in the extermination of an ethnic group of people and their religion is genocide. That's exactly what's going on here with racial integration. If this system keeps operating for another 50 years, there's not going to be any more white people.
Okay. I mean, I'm not white, so I don't
genocide.
know. Okay. To me, it seems like
I am, and I love being white. Thank you very much.
Okay. You love all the less superior races too, right? No. So here, I guess here's my problem: is that to me, I'm welcoming of the Bible because I believe that people can be inherently good, and so they should be able to read the book and from it take the good and leave the bad. But you're a product of the reason why I should go back to my feeling that the book should be outlawed, because you're taking things from it, and just because they were used in the past, saying that they must continue for all time, just because. There's no other reason that you're saying that they should continue. You don't.
I'd say just because
it's God's word.
I gave you tons of evidence to show how women's the destruction women's liberation has wrought. I gave you evidence regarding the supremacy of men over women, that they have all the accomplishments and they have all the responsibilities in civilization.
Because that's where they were put.
I cited books to you. I gave you examples. What's that?
If men are put in the leadership positions for thousands of years, and then at the end of those thousands of years, you're just allowed to say men deserve to be in the leadership positions because that's where they've been. So that's where they must remain. That's where they thrive. But that's where they started. Because that's what the book said. So, I mean,
I cited the labor statistics report, which showed over 93% of the people who die on the job, men have the most dangerous jobs, that women are not going to take the same responsibilities men do. You can't seriously believe this, that they have the same desire for.
They don't. I mean, you know what? I was a store manager of a drugstore, and if I ever told a woman to go get shopping carts, she would look at me like I was crazy. So I understand what you're saying, but that is a product of the society that we're in, and we should be moving. And we can make decisions that are complementary, right? Like,
nature.
okay,
Look, dude, look at a woman's body. They have the shoulders of a man. Where we have the more broad shoulders. We have the more denser skeletal structure, denser muscle mass. You look at a woman's structure. You have the shoulders are slouched down. There's breasts, not clearly smaller chest, larger hips for bearing children. I mean, dude, you can't seriously believe that it's not an issue of nature. There's an issue of nature here.
Okay, so I get what you're saying.
Have different roles in society.
Okay, I'll agree with you and say that men should do the heavier lifting and women should do the lighter lifting. You're going as far as to saying men should be superior because they do the heavier lifting?
They have more responsibility.
Because it's heavier?
The biological design makes have response.
And I don't see that. I mean, you're saying that if we gave IQ tests that men would dominate? Hello. Where'd you go? I'll try and call him back. I don't know why.
The person whom you're trying to reach is currently unavailable. Please leave a message after the beep.
I certainly feel sick to my stomach this morning. Let me see if he calls me back. I'll check the chat. Hopefully something's happening there. Losing my mind. I am at a loss because I did think that we were much further along as a people. This is like a disappointing. Really, really disappointing. Oh, good. Some other people are out there. So I cannot believe it that somebody who would have those kind of beliefs would still feel comfortable in saying them, standing on top of bodies, and it is upsetting. He's calling back. Okay, you're back.
Calls are up there.
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, so in my opinion, all I'm saying, and you can say it's based on my feelings or you can say whatever, but I have certain morality that is in me because it's in me, not because I read it anywhere, because I can read things in the Bible and I can read things in a smut novel and I can read something in a newspaper or watch something on TV, and from all those things I can create my own best case scenario. I can create the way that humans would live together in peace and harmony from that collection. And that's how I base my morality. And I would hope that my God is more moral than me. And you have created a God for me that is not moral in many ways and telling me I must bow to that God.
I mean, so you know that the ideas that you have in your head right now about these issues have been dominant in the society for really since the Civil War here, and we've seen the institutions and the policies that have been created by these ideas that you have, this rejection of the Bible. And it not only has it not shown itself to be superior to what the Bible says, it's shown itself to be exponentially more tyrannical and violent and wicked. I mean, you look at the women of the antebellum South, they're the most cherished, pampered, valued creatures on the face of the earth. And the way they dressed them, the way they were like exalted and glorified in our civilization here. You look at the women now, my God. I mean, anyone that is familiar with the most dominant cultural motif of today, the sexual revolution, Just go on a porn site and show and see how women are viewed today.
You don't think that's a product of being for 3,000 years being sex slaves?
Having them like drink cups of semen and stuff. It's like,
where do you think they learned that? Where do you think they learned that? You think that's something
superior to what the Bible says?
Do you think they learned that on their own, or do you think some guys probably made them do it? What are you thinking? Do you think that women sign up for that on their own, or do you think that that's what guys want? What do you, I mean, honestly, do you think that women get paid for that?
This is just a fact of life. The men build civilization, and we are the ones that make the world go round. That's just a fact. And women are going to align themselves with what men are doing. And they have to.
They have to. It's a product of your book. Absolutely. It's a product of your book. Absolutely. And that has shown us what has happened.
It's a product of it is a product of a civilization, and it's a product of human civilization. Women have to align themselves with what the builders of the civilization are doing.
Because if they didn't, they'd get beat and used as slaves.
Hold on. I have talked to dozens of women about this sexual revolution thing, and they admit it's a problem. But the thing they always say to me is, Drake, it was expected of me. It was expected of me to have sex with my boyfriend and the guy that showed interest in me. It's just expected of me, and so I have to align myself with the cultural norm.
Okay.
You can't. You have produced no evidence whatsoever that the institutions and the policies of your liberal mindset have been superior to what the Bible says.
First of all, because nothing that I am saying should be done is being done. Nothing. Not one bit. So it's all a product of, so look at the law of Moses says what? That if you're going to capture a virgin slave and make her your concubine, that you must shave her head, and then you must trim her nails, and then you have to give her a month to mourn her parents that you just killed. And this is something that you think is a good law. Yeah. It's a good law. Yeah. I mean, your beliefs are archaic. It's archaic. Yeah. It's maybe it was needed in those days. I don't know.
And the institutions and policies of
I don't have none of my
have created.
None of my policies have been implemented.
No. You believe? Hold on. You believe that all men are created equal?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, are they born equal? Maybe not.
That human nature. Hold on. Let me finish. I'm going to go through a little rap list with you here. Do you believe that human nature is good, and because of it, men should be given freedom of thought and freedom of inquiry, freedom of publishing, and freedom of speech, because human beings are good and they want to know the truth? Do you believe that?
Say it again.
You believe that human nature is good, and because human nature is good, men should be given freedom of thought, freedom of publishing, freedom of speech, because people are good and they want to know the truth.
No, it's a double-edged question. No, I don't believe people are good. I do believe people should be free to do anything they want until they've infringed on somebody else. So,
those two contradict each other. If human beings are not good, then we can't give them this freedom and liberation thing, because they will infringe on the rights of other people.
And when they do, then you hold them accountable for that. So, I mean, if somebody wants to,
why not stop? Why not keep them from having the power and the ability to hurt other people in their lives? It's like,
because if I want to smoke a cigarette, if I want to smoke a cigarette, I should be able to smoke a cigarette. It's my life. It's my body. It's my lungs. That's my choice. Nobody should be able to tell me I can't do that.
No, it's not. No, you did not.
I did not
self-hypostatize, sir. Someone created you. You do not belong to yourself. Your DNA was not created by you. It was created by someone else.
I agree with you.
By the collective group that you're a part of. I don't know what your heritage is, but the people do not own themselves. Why? Because they did not create themselves. They were created by someone else.
Do you believe in free will?
Had to labor
to feed
you and to put a roof over your head, and that's why you exist.
Right. So from the age of 0 to 18, you are. So the age of 0 to 18, I take it back. When I said I'm not allowed to, I should be able to have a cigarette if I want, and when I'm adult. Okay. When I'm 6 years old, my parents are responsible to tell me I cannot and punish me if I do. and that's my parents' right, and because they brought me into the world. But at 18, or whenever you want to consider an adult age, when society agrees, I don't think it's 12 like the Bible wants to say, or I don't even know if they give an age, but it's certainly a lot younger than it is now. And you even said yourself, they don't make good decisions at that age. That at a certain age, when you've become an adult and you're now responsible for yourself, there's nobody who should be able to step in and say anything. I mean, the idea that prostitution is illegal in today's world is a joke. It's a joke. And right? I mean,
I think my point still stands that the self-ownership doctrine is ridiculous, because we did not create ourselves. We were created by someone else.
Were we given free will?
Even when you turn 18 years old, you are still a product of your people. Now, I didn't invent my car. I didn't grow the vegetables that I bought at the grocery store yesterday. I didn't create most of the things that are a part of my life. My computer, like this is all a product of my people. This isn't a product. I did not just wish these things into existence. I did not wish myself into existence. I am part of a collective group of people, and I am a product of them. And because of that, I belong to them. And I need to, when I make decisions, I should take into account their interests. The ideas of tribalism that are in the Bible seem to me to be the most natural and unhypocritical definition of love of other people. That these are my people. I'm a descendant of them. My DNA, my genetic structure is a product of them. And because of that, I belong to them. I'm a part of a collective identity with a distinct history and a heritage to it. This whole idea of self-ownership thing with the libertarian philosophy, which I'm assuming you believe, it's just baseless. I don't think you have any ground whatsoever to love people in a true, unhypocritical, natural way. It seems very feigned and narcissistic to me.
To love people is narcissistic?
Without a basis, or no. I don't think that when you say you love everyone, because I've read the history of atheism, and I'm not trying to impute the history of atheism to you necessarily. I'm just saying that this naive understanding of equality, fraternity, unity that came out of the French Revolution, clearly they don't believe it. You look at the history of the atheist secular regimes, of their so-called benevolent look to their benevolent disposition toward other human beings, is clearly hypocritical bullshit. They don't care massacring hundreds of millions of people. They clearly don't. So when I hear people this enlightenment view of the love of man and humanism, I know it's bullshit. What I see, what I've experienced in my life, the most pure, the most real basis for loving other people is that we are a people. We are a tribe. You are my people. We have the same blood. We have the same faith. Those are the kinds of things that have real substance to them. This universal love for all people is just completely baseless, in my opinion. And from what I've read in the history of the world, it's just really hypocritical. It's very clear these people who believe in this universal love, equality, fraternity don't give a damn about their fellow man. And as a matter of fact, my father, who is an atheist and a huge supporter of Thomas Jefferson, not only does he not hate the entire human race, he hates all people. The only people he will have, or only creatures he will have any fellowship with, are his dogs. It's all he cares about. He'll just sit in his house all day long and watch TV and play with his dogs. And he hates the whole human race.
So is that a product?
And I think he deserves it. He deserves it because of these stupid liberal views of love for people. If he could identify with his heritage, with his ethnicity, with the faith of his people, he could actually have some happiness in this life with other people, because those are real bases for love.
So what you're doing is you're saying, basically, rather than look at what is good for all, you want to look at just an individual person. You don't understand that there's a possibility for everyone to exist, coexist.
I'm saying that whole notion of people, the whole notion of people wanting the good for all is just a bunch of hypocritical BS. They clearly don't. The people who've created these ideas,
hold on a second, but you're saying that
one race and universal love,
you're
just
putting
bullshit.
It's not bullshit, because I'm standing right here telling you that if tomorrow I could snap my fingers and everyone live in peace and harmony, I would do it. So how is it bullshit? I don't understand how you can just assume that I'm being, unless you have hate in your life, you have hate in your heart that's making you have hate for other races and have hate for other nations and other tribes. I don't have that. I don't think it's right to.
So you would, okay, so you would snap your fingers and see to it that Southern racist men like myself, or people like the neo-Nazi group, that they could have a nation of their own and have their own little Nazi utopia somewhere. That would make them happy. I mean, that's what they want, and that's what I want. I want a nation of my own people. And you're saying that if you could snap your fingers and let that happen, you would let it happen.
I think it's racist. So
that's what we want. That's what would make us happy. All right, but that's what we're happy. That's what makes us happy. We want to be with our own people. We don't want to be around people who hate us and hate the way we live and hate our Bible and hate who we are and hate the history of our people. We don't want to be around people like that. We want to be around our own people.
Yeah, I think you apply.
So you're saying, see, that's what I'm saying. See what I'm saying? You don't believe what you're saying. When you say you want universal happiness for people, you don't.
Yes, I do. I want universal happiness
forced on the other people, just like I do.
I do, because I don't see why anybody would have a problem with anybody else living peacefully. Why would you have a problem with a group of black people living peacefully near you? If they're not bothering you, why would you want them gone from your area?
Because they hate us. And
no, so that's because you hate them.
You believe in
that's the difference.
You believe,
hold
on. You believe in racial integration. You believe in racial integration. And so
I don't think there should be a problem with it. If I go,
people like you force this. Oh, I'm sorry. That makes us happy, being with our own people. That makes us happy. And you're saying
that's great. You can choose who you want to live with in your house. You can choose who you live with. You don't have to live with anybody you don't want to. But if they live next door to you, I'm sorry. But
what about the school system?
The what? You're cutting in and out.
Why can't we? I mean, that's an important issue of who. Okay.
No, I can't hear you because you're cutting out. Say it again. Yeah.
Can you hear me okay now?
Sure. Say it again.
Okay. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes.
Am I coming?
Yes. Yes.
Okay now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So when you said earlier you could snap your fingers and you would have all people to be happy, that would involve people like me, neo-Nazi groups, having their own nation of a homogenous race of people, like a nationalistic type of thing. You would be okay with that. That means no more racial integration.
For you mean?
At least in our part of the world.
Sure, we would give you an island.
At least in our part of the world.
Sure, we'll give you an island where you guys can live out there and be amongst yourselves. If as long as you're not infringing on others, then nobody will infringe on you. Obviously that's not going to happen.
That's what racial integration is all about, man. Racial integration here is all about forcing the things on us that we did not want here.
Who forces somebody to live in your house? I never said
racial integration, so don't blame me if I think you're lying.
I'm absolutely. If somebody from
just saying this to put your argument.
No, I'm not. If somebody from Mexico wants to come to the United States and is willing to abide by the laws of this country, they should absolutely be able to. If they want to move into my house, there's a problem there if I don't want them in my house. It's clear that is your decision to make. But if they want to move next door to me, I don't have a right to go and say you can't live here. Why? Who's the original owner of that land? God, right?
Well,
so I don't have a right to say.
Okay, but
yeah, well, I mean, I'm trying to tell you that it's not what you're thinking is. It's not a pipe dream. It's what we should be working towards. So if there is, well, I'm just telling you that's what my opinion is, and I'm pretty sure, and I would almost guarantee it, that if there is a God of your type that wants racial integration and wants slavery of women and wants subjection of women and wants men to be the leaders of society, then I don't worship that God. And you know what? If that God created me, he gave me free will, which is the choice to decide whether or not to worship him. Right?
Okay, so the Bible and the Tower of Babel narrative, which is most people understand it, was that God separated the peoples into their own lands and nations, and that Paul speaks of this in Acts chapter 17. That what God created after the Tower of Babel was a racially separated, nationalistic type of system.
So you believe in a literal,
yeah.
you believe literally people built a tower to heaven? That's
Yes.
what you think? How high do you think they could build it?
They were trying to.
How high do you think they got till you interrupted them? It's not a literal story. Like we're at a point in our society, we should be able to read and understand what the story is trying to say. You couldn't build, how high could we build a tower? The Burj Khalifa or whatever in Dubai is 2,700 feet. How much higher would they have to go to get to heaven? About another 1,000 miles?
I'm not an engineer. I don't have all the answers, man. I'm just saying that that's what I read in the book, man. That's what it says.
Okay, and it says that space is supposedly 1,000 miles away. Who knows? So they didn't nobody built anything close enough. There's no reason why God would have came down and ever pushed people out. That's not free will, first of all. The God of your Bible, the God of your Bible took the Pharaoh and hardened his heart so that he could then kill the firstborn of every Egyptian to show his majesty and his glory. That I don't believe in that God. Sorry, I don't think that.
I do remember reading that God hardened Pharaoh's heart. I remember that.
Okay, and then right after that happened, then God killed the firstborn.
I don't know.
You don't remember the Passover?
Yes.
Okay, so that all happened. If God just would have let Pharaoh let Moses go, then nobody would have been killed. But God wanted to show his glory. In fact, I believe that the exact words were to show his glory, blankety, blankety, blank. So
right.
I don't think that is a story.
In the destruction of the Egyptian gods.
Huh?
All of the plagues of Egypt were all plagues that spited the Egyptian gods and showed that he had supremacy over them. But again, the issue of children dying, obviously, God does allow those things to happen. But
he causes them to happen. He didn't allow them to happen. He went to every door and killed them. He went to every person's door and murdered the baby. That's what he did.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
You said allowed. It's not really allowing if you're the one who kills them. Okay. So.
Fair enough.
Okay. And so what I'm saying is, I don't see where there's a problem with me saying that I was given free will by whoever created me, and that free will includes the decision-making skills to allow me to either worship him or not.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the argument was about, because you said that God basks in the glory of the destruction of the evil. And I think that's now I understand. But here's the thing: what I'm trying to say is,
you're not a puppet.
I'm not a puppet. No.
I think there's a distinction that needs to be made between free will and free agency. I believe in free agency. I believe that people are the efficient cause of their own actions. We're not puppets on a string. But God has foreknown all the things, has decreed everything that would happen, and has foreknown it. And he governs all the actions of the world so that everything happens exactly how he planned. It doesn't mean that he is the efficient cause of everything that happens, but he is the ultimate formal cause of everything that happens.
I mean, I can't believe people still believe this way. So you think God created people knowing that they would go to hell? That's what you think? That he created them knowing that in the end of their lifetime they would go to hell, whether or not they would choose to follow him, and he created them anyway? That's a tyrant. That is not a God.
I hope that on the last day that God gives me the ability to throw Thomas Jefferson's piece of crap into the lake of fire. That would be a great and glorious day to see my enemy, the enemy of my people, be destroyed.
It sounds like you want Satan to be your God. You want Satan to be your God. You don't want.
It sounds like what?
You sound like you want Satan to be your God. Believe me, the God that created me is not going to allow anybody to throw anybody's bodies in any fires.
Satan would tell me to love Thomas Jefferson, because he was a Luciferian like himself. I think that.
I don't understand the difference between your two. I don't understand. There's no more difference anymore. You've created a complete wash between Satan and God. They're both. You're just giving them murderous powers. They go around, they murder, they kill, they don't care. They're allowed to because they created you, and they can do whatever they want, and you should just deal with it and worship them. That's what you say. I think it's insane. I don't want anybody to I don't think any human should ever say to themselves, I want to stand on a bunch of bodies. Like there's a problem somewhere that they need to reassess their beliefs if they feel that way. I just don't. I don't feel that way
So
myself.
you don't. So hold on. So then you don't believe that the Yankee Army of the North had the moral authority to come down here and kill all the people that they did down here in the South. You think that was wrong?
Yeah, I think any killing is wrong, unless you're talking about self-protection.
Okay. So then we should have been allowed to keep our slaves and to continue the antebellum slave.
Sorry, no. Is that subjecting your will on somebody else or not? Is keeping a slave
see-
against? Okay, so I certainly don't think anybody should keep any slaves. So think before you tell me I think this or I think that, because obviously
I keep showing you.
you don't show me anything.
I keep showing you. You believe the same things I do. You believe in genocide. You believe in killing, just like I do. It's just for different purposes.
Yeah, exactly.
You just have a different viewpoint.
Because my viewpoint is moral in my mind, and I think it should be in everyone's. And I guess I never realized we had such different ideas of morality. Your moralness is that we should be able to keep people as our slaves. That's moral to you, against their will.
Absolutely. There's a ton
Holy
of people in the world cannot rule their own lives. I've known many people in my life that could not rule themselves, and they were destroying themselves with drugs and alcohol and all kinds of stuff. And
so yeah, because you know what, if you've got
people like that could be forced into a work plan, absolutely.
Sure, and then guess what would happen to their kids? Their kids wouldn't be able to survive in society either, and then they would become slaves. Is that fair?
What do you mean?
Because you're saying that people cannot control their own lives, which is probably a product of their parents and their surroundings. And so if their parents are slaves and they give birth to a child, that child's probably not going to do very well in society and is going to just become a slave themselves. And you're just saying that's okay because they can't take care of their own lives. But I'm telling you that that's a product of the book that you're talking about. The book that you want to follow is what's caused these dissensions. That's caused these people to not be able to actively participate in society in a positive way. I mean, I don't understand how you think women. How do you expect women to be anywhere near equal to us when we've subjected them to that?
The civilization we live in today is a product of your ideas, man. I'm sorry. This is not a society that has been
the
built
product
by
of today is a product of your book. The society.
No, it's not, dude. That is ridiculous, dude. What happened here? You can't seriously believe that, man. Abraham Lincoln did not believe in the Bible. He was rejecting the Bible when he established his little Yankee Union capitalist utopia here. And then the other guy came along named Charles Darwin, and he created the basis of the capitalist system. And then Herbert Spencer took Charles Darwin's writings, and he developed the early capitalist philosophy and this survival of the fittest type of philosophy. That becomes incorporated into the American economy, becomes a dominant part of our society here, this capitalist Darwinian, social Darwinian economic. And then the communist revolution happened in the middle of the 1800s, and this was the catalyst to the anti-slavery movement, because, of course, if you're a communist, you reject private property, and therefore you can't own another human being's property, because the P word, it's a horrible word, the property word. And you look at the people who've dominated this society: Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr., Charles Darwin. These are not people who believe the Bible. I'm sorry. Alfred Kinsey, the guy behind the sexual revolution. He was a Luciferian, sadomasochistic nutcase. He didn't believe the Bible. He didn't go to church on Sundays. The people that have created your society, sir, people operating off the exact ideas you have in your head.
No.
Sorry.
You're absolutely wrong. You're applying the wrong things to me by saying that. My ideas are not anywhere in society. Obviously.
Do you not agree? Hold on. Do you or do you not agree that Abraham Lincoln was justified in destroying the Southern people because they owned slaves?
I don't even think that's what happened. So, I mean, I guess I don't. He did it for political reasons, but do I think it was justified? I think that.
Yes. Just say yes. Just say yes. You will.
No, I don't, because there was another way to do it. Nope, there's another way to go about it. You have to free those people. You cannot allow people to own other people for no other reason than, well, we were here first, we own them. What if you were born into slavery? You are a white person, and so you just think you should be able to be given an elevated status, but you don't think about the people who are born in the status you want to be well below you.
I should be having elevated status in a civilization that my ancestors created. Yes, I don't believe I should have a.
So what if it went the other way around?
In Africa or in China.
So what if it went the other way around? What if you were born to a white family in Africa that had been taken over by boat to be slaves there? Would you feel the same way?
It doesn't matter what I feel.
I'm asking you, do you see that there's, you have to, okay, so the Bible would say the same thing it says now. And so you would have to then just live with the fact that you have to be a slave because the book that everyone believes in says so. And I don't know how you don't see this. That you have to, I'm trying to take other people's viewpoints. I'm trying to take, I want everyone to be happy. You want you to be happy and your race. It's like, you don't understand that you could have been born in a different situation. You just want what you want because you happen to be born in a benefited position that you want to be. Go ahead.
You're operating. Hold on. You're operating off the golden rule at this point.
Absolutely.
The rule that states you should treat other people in the exact same way you would want to be treated if you were in their situation.
Probably better.
Really?
You should probably treat them better than you would want to be treated. Yeah, I mean, it's a great way to live. Imagine, I mean, I've always talked about if everyone took care of the person on their right, then the world would be perfect. It's that simple. It is really that easy that if I just took care of the person to my right and that person took care of the person to their right and so on and so forth, how perfect would the world be? But instead, you want it in a position of, well, if I was born here, then I want to not take care of anybody. In fact, I want the person to my left to work for me and the person to my right because it just so happens to be the position I was born in. It's a crazy thought.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yep. I mean, you were born a male.
Okay,
what if you were born a female? Would you have a different opinion of the book?
Hold on. I wanted to give you an example of something, and I think my internet timed out for a second.
Okay.
All right. So if you were a warden at a prison, and you had a prisoner there who had murdered 30 people, raped their families, absolute scumbag, okay? And he says to you, warden, you should set me free. Because if you were in my situation, you would want to be set free. If you believe the golden rule, you have to set me free. What would you say to him? I
would say no. I would have to live with my crime and the penalty that comes with it. You're saying that now, hold on, let's just turn that around. You're saying...
You're rejecting the golden rule, man. You're rejecting the golden rule.
No, I'm not. I just said the golden rule.
You have to treat other people the same way you would want to be treated if you were in their situation. That's the definition of the golden rule, right?
And if I raped and murdered 30 people, then I would have to accept the fact that that's my position. You're saying that the person...
solipsism. That is solipsism.
No, it's not.
There's many
solipsism. Guys... Oh, boy.
Yes, it is. There's many guys, you're saying there's no murderers in prison that want to be free.
No, I'm not.
Get away with what they get away with.
I don't care what they want. That's not allowed in society. You don't get to murder people and go free. Go ahead. That has nothing to do with what you're saying. Has nothing to do with what you're saying. You're saying, hold on a second. I'm saying something about slaves. Slaves that are put there against their will that have done nothing wrong. Or women who were born women and have done nothing wrong. You're talking about somebody who's murdered 30 people. You don't see a difference? How do you not see a difference? I'm asking you if you were born a woman, meaning you didn't do anything wrong, dude. You came out with a vagina. That's all that went wrong. And you think that you should just be subjected to being a sex slave and to being sold by your father and having to get your head shaved and your nails clipped so that you can mourn for a month because your parents died. You just think that's okay. But it's because you were born a man. Well, you compared that to a person killing 30 people. Did the woman get born and kill 30 people? Or did she just get born a woman? I don't understand how you don't see the difference between that.
Hello.
Yep, I'm here.
Can't hear anything.
Well, I'm talking, so I don't know.
Oh, there we go. There it is. I got it. Something happened with my volume. Sorry.
Okay, so now tell me, if you were born a woman, would you feel differently about the book?
It doesn't. You keep asking me how I feel about things. It doesn't matter how I'd feel about things.
What do you call it right now? Are we talking about how you feel about the book right now?
You just admitted to me that a prisoner in a prison, a murderer, you would not care how he felt if he was in. Because
the person committed 30 murders. you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay, so I'm asking you, if
Yeah.
you were a woman, if you're born a woman, how would you would be okay with living based on what the book says? There, I didn't use the word feel.
Dude, have you if you have
Why can't you answer
rejected
that question?
the example that I gave, you cannot use this form of argument
Oh man,
because
dude,
you just admitted to me
it's a different
that your
situation.
feelings, that feelings cannot be a basis
It's a
of
different
morality and ethics.
situation.
You just admitted it.
It's a different situation. How do you not understand? I can't talk anymore if you can't understand the difference between being born a woman and being a man who killed 30 people. One is one person's fault. The other one is not anybody's fault at all. I'm asking you to put yourself in a position of somebody
You're
who's.
going to have to word. You're going to have to read. See, you're operating off a view of the golden rule now that aligns with what I believe. What I believe, according to, obviously, Jesus did give us the golden rule, right? Treat others the way you would want to be treated. But that was in the context of a Jewish man who believed in the Torah. And what he meant by that was give other people Torah justice the same as you would want Torah justice. He wasn't making it just some arbitrary humanist thing.
Okay, so let's treat it that way then. So if we're going to treat justice the way that justice is, how would you have liked to be born a woman with the justice of the book that you read as God's word?
Well, first of all, if I was a knowledgeable woman who actually knew how human civilizations operate, I would be grateful to be in the position I'm in, because I get an easy, air-conditioned, comfortable life while my husband and the men around me have their lives destroyed at the workplace, have their hands cut off, their arms cut off at the workplace, or their legs cut off or something in a battle or a war, because I get to stay home while they get to go die and be mutilated so that I can have this comfortable life. It doesn't.
You're out there, dude. You're so out there.
What do we mean I'm out there?
Is that what sex slaves' life
dude?
is like? Sex slaves just sit in an air-conditioned room and live the good life, or do they go through bukkake and other things like that? What do you think happens?
Are you seriously suggesting that the statistics on mortality in the military, are you seriously suggesting that women die at the same rate men do?
I said nothing even close to that.
So then how can you say I'm out there, dude?
Because there's
I just
probably
gave you a
98 to 2.
Factual example of why I believe what I believe, and you just say I'm out there, and then you admit what I'm saying is right.
Nope.
How am I out there if I'm
okay? Listen to this question, and then
on facts, dude.
I'm gonna give you one more chance before we
die in the military.
Okay, that has nothing to do with what I said. I said, let's take a look at women and men. You can be born either one. You're saying that men who are born men get to be in the position that they get sex slaves, and now you're saying that what comes with the drawback of you might have to go into the military, and you might have to die. But you're equating that. You're saying that's equal to the woman who is born into slavery and into sex slavery. You're saying that's an equal position then.
I have. You're trying to
I'm
make
just asking you a
marriage equal
question.
sex slavery. I'm not accepting. I'm not. It's a loaded question, dude. You're asserting certain circumstances.
Did God allow Moses to go grab the virgins? Did God allow I think he directed him. Did God direct Moses to go collect all the virgin women and the children, the women and the girl children, to bring them back to make them sex slaves? Is that in the Bible?
From
the Midianites, I think they were.
What I remember, they were to be wives. They weren't to be sex slaves. I'd have to look over that passage again. But they were to be their wives. Yeah, that you're going to call that sex slavery. I don't know how you're equivocating the two.
So you don't think that any men who are in the power position of being in charge, they get to have the authoritative position? You don't think any of them ever made their women do anything they probably didn't want to do?
Sure they did. I mean, that's every person in a position of power has to do that from time to time. But you're gonna draw it out to some extreme degree where what I'm saying means that women have to get anal rape or something by their husband because it makes him feel good or something.
Well, I mean, you don't think that happens?
I'm not going to say things like that.
What I'm saying is your book is allowing men to have that position. How can you not see that?
So what? Yes.
So what? That's the whole conversation,
and
dude.
you're
the whole conversation is The fact that the
And
book is
you're,
causing people to have a power position over another sex or another race and using it against them in ways I don't think are moral. Therefore, the God that I would pray to or worship certainly is not responsible for the laws of that book.
Okay. Look, bro, I gotta run, man. I got some things I gotta get done this morning. But
Okay, hopefully it's not any bodies that you have to stand on top of.
Talking with you. Yeah.
Don't stand on
What's
top
that?
of. I said, don't stand on top of any bodies. Don't hurt any people. Don't subject any women to
I'll try
anything
not to.
crazy.
All
All right, talk to you later.
I'll try not to, man.
Well, that certainly wasn't what I expected. I'll tell you that much. I'll have to make a video on this because I have so many things running through my mind. It is a weird day. I don't think I thought people like that existed. I'm baffled. Thanks for watching. I'm going to go cry myself to sleep. Then, unfortunately, I must share this land with people who believe in a God that allows that kind of behavior. And don't get me wrong, I believe in a God that allows that behavior too, but allows it because we were given free will. And how do you convince somebody like that their mindset should be changed? I don't know. It's one of those things where you think to yourself, if you sometimes, I think, have the belief that everyone else feels like you do, or everyone else has the morality that you do. And when you hear that somebody just clearly doesn't, where do you draw the line between allowing them to continue to exist? They're just going to have children who are grown up with the same beliefs, racism, sexism, and hopefully some Christians out there who, I don't consider myself Christian because I have some problems with that book, but I want you to see this was an extreme example of somebody whose belief in that book is so deep, so entrenched, that it's caused them to hate other races, hate the other sex, hate anybody who is against their way of life. Put them on an island, I guess, and hope it floods. Be nice to each other. Don't lie to each other. And open up your mind because there's truth inside unless you want to stand on some bodies. Peace.